If you're watching this, you're likely interested in, or already studying, a foreign language. And let me guess, you've seen about 1 million different methods online, right? You can easily get lost among the huge variety of advice. What if I told you there's a truly brilliant way to learn it? Here's the thing. There's a method that's not only scientifically proven, but also doesn't require you to spend hours with your nose in a textbook. The best part? This method is language neutral. This method is based on something called the immersion approach, inspired by linguist Stephen Krashen's research. It focuses on learning through consuming content in the target language surrounding yourself with the language in your daily life. And thanks to the internet, you can actually create an immersive environment from wherever you are. Let me show you how. First, let's talk about why so many people study a language for years but still can't speak it. There's actually a big difference between consciously learning a language and naturally acquiring it. Think about how you learned your first language. You didn't start with grammar rules, right? You just listened and gradually started understanding and speaking. Many people believe that language learning is something children do naturally, while adults need to study rules and memorize vocabulary. But your brain is actually designed to learn languages in a completely different way. It picks up patterns naturally through exposure, just like when you were a kid. The key to making real progress is to expose yourself to the language as much as possible. This doesn't mean you should ignore grammar or vocabulary, but your success will largely depend on how much time you spend engaging with the language. So, the foundation of this method, passive listening without the need to sit down and study the language in a traditional way. Such listening, which doesn't require your full attention, allows you to fit language learning into your daily routine without feeling overwhelmed. But don't confuse passive listening with simply having background noise. It's important to still pay attention to what's being said, even while doing something else. This brings us to something Stephen Krashen called Comprehensible Input. Don't let the fancy term scare you. Krashen essentially explains that humans learn languages by grasping concepts through context. Even vague words that wouldn't make sense on their own can be understood based on the situation. You pick up meaning from the context and gradually improve without focusing too much on grammar rules. And according to his theory, such content should be just a little beyond your current level of understanding, and it needs to be engaging and meaningful to keep your brain interested and working to fill in the gaps. Let me break it down. If you understand everything, you're not learning anything new. If you understand nothing, your brain can't make any connections. The sweet spot? Understanding maybe 70 to 80%, where you can follow along but still encounter new words and phrases. Now, I have to be straight with you about something. Those Become Fluent in 3 Months videos should come with a disclaimer. Results only typical for people who have a time turner like Hermione Granger and can attend 72 hours of language classes per day. If you're serious about achieving fluency, you need to understand that it takes time and dedication. You are here for the long run, and we're talking thousands of hours of exposure to the language. But here's the good news. With this method, those hours don't have to be spent actively studying. You can rack them up while doing other things. And trust me, it's a lot more enjoyable than forcing yourself to memorize conjugation tables. Now, let's get into the practical stuff. Here's how you start. First, learn the basic language alphabet and basic sounds of the language, which doesn't take long. Second, pick up the most common words in the language by category: nouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs. Total number should not be more than 500 words. You can use flashcards for this part to memorize them, but most of your time, 90% or more, should be spent on passive listening. This is the key element of this learning method. Third, find content made for beginners in your target language. The material shouldn't be too difficult, though. If you turn on a foreign radio station and don't understand a thing after 5 minutes, it's too advanced. On the other hand, if the material is too easy, it won't challenge your brain. You need something in the middle. What kind of material should you use for passive listening? Your best options are YouTube or radio podcasts, especially made for language learners. Audiobooks adapted for various levels. Children's stories are great for the beginners. YouTube videos in your target language. Why to use them? Because they provide a continuous stream of language, not just isolated phrases. The material should be exclusively in the language you're learning, with minimal translations or explanations in your native language. If these criteria are met, you'll find the process rewarding, and even if the content isn't that exciting, you'll feel satisfied by the progress you're making. The beauty of passive listening is that you can do it anywhere. Doing dishes? Language learning time. Walking your dog? Language learning time. In a boring meeting that could have been an email? Definitely language learning time. The key is to get in at least an hour of listening every day. Before you say, "I don't have time for that," remember, this is passive listening. You can do it while commuting to school or work, working out, doing chores around the house. You might be wondering, how do I know if I'm actually making progress? Look for these signs. You start catching words you didn't actively try to learn. Content that used to feel impossible starts making some sense. You find yourself thinking simple thoughts in the language. Look, your brain is smarter than you think. It's like that friend who says they're bad at math, but can instantly calculate a 20% tip to split between 7 people at a restaurant. Your brain is secretly working even when you think it's just enjoying some foreign YouTube videos about cats. So, is this the only way to learn a language? No, there are plenty of other effective methods to learn languages. Some faster, some slower, some requiring more attention, others less. We will definitely talk about some of them in the upcoming videos. But it's probably the most practical method for people with busy lives who still want to become fluent. It works with how your brain naturally learns languages, which makes the whole process a lot less painful and a lot more effective. Trust me, if you stick with it, success is inevitable. Think of it like getting in shape. You can't get fit in a week, but if you make it part of your daily routine, you'll look back in a few months and be amazed at how far you've come. Give this a shot. What have you got to lose?